And Lily, your opinion about this documentary.
Well, first, I was born through surrogacy, child born through surrogacy through CSP. And first off, I've always known I was born through surrogacy. I get that question a lot, when was the first time that you were told you were born through surrogacy? And my mother created a story when I was young called The Night Before Lily. And she used to read to me every night and tell me, this is how you were born, and it's okay. And I think the most important thing for children born through surrogacy, from my perspective, is that they know that they are loved and that it's okay to be born this way, and that there's really no difference between me and yourselves out in the audience, just the fact that it was a different modality that I was born. And as for the movie Breeders, it's terrible. I don't appreciate being called a product, because I'm not a product, I'm a human being. And I don't appreciate the label breeder, because then I'm a product of a breeder. And when you label people in general, not just children born through surrogacy, but anyone with that kind of label, it presents a negative connotation. So if somebody was to go up to you in a conversation and say, oh, well, this child's from a breeder, right away you have a negative thought about me in your head. And so when you meet me, right away I'm already at a disadvantage, because somebody's already told you this is a child of a breeder. And now that it's out there on the internet, it's something that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And, I'm an older child born through surrogacy, so obviously it's not going to faze me as much. But for younger children who are being born through surrogacy, all it's going to do is give bullies one more reason to taunt these children. And as a child growing up, I was bullied. It mostly came from a religious standpoint, people not understanding, people asking me, well, why do you pay the surrogates? So basically you had to pay somebody to have you, and that's true. Surrogates are compensated for their time, just like any other business that you would see. And I guess my biggest problem with this is that it's not fair for children to be labeled in such a way, because it creates a stigma, and then it gives, growing up is already hard enough, and I don't, for every child, growing up is like the hardest part of your life, right? You have to deal with bullies, you have to deal with relationships, you have to deal with learning about yourself, and just to have one more thing on you saying oh, well, now you're a breeder, that just gives people the right to bully you and make fun of you. And these children had nothing to do with this process. I had nothing to do with this. I just am, People chose to have me this way, but I had nothing to do with it. I was born, and here I am. So why do I have to take the brunt of this? And, I think whoever created this documentary,
It's Jeanette Lyle and Mark Epinette.
owes my brother and I and all the other children born through surrogacy an apology, because it's not right that she labeled us in this fashion. And for future generations, I feel I'm saddened that it's come to this, because like Karen mentioned, I feel like society's already been through this once before with children born through adoption and labeling children like that. So why does it just keep happening? And I feel it's very unfair. And I was deeply hurt that this film was created, and at least with this title, because, I feel that everybody has the right to their own opinion, but it doesn't mean that you get to label.
Thank you. And Chase, from a male perspective, you have a different view.
On the whole breeder title, it's just, it's specifically created to have malicious intent. If you looked at me, if I sat in that chair, you would know. Only way you know I'm a surrogate child is because there's a tag under my name that says a child of surrogacy. I'm no different than anyone else when it comes to being a person. But to label me as a breeder child, it's just a malicious thing. When you hear breeder, you think of like a farm. I wasn't born in some cage and they let me out. It's no ASPCA commercial where it's like you could save Chase for 10 cents a day. But to label me as a breeder is just it's a mean, malicious thing, and to call yourself the ethics group, no ethics in it. It's just out there to be me.
Yeah, what's ethical about that?
Yeah,
nothing.
And with regards to you learning that you were born through surrogacy, what do you think about parents that for example, will not want to tell their children or say, what if I tell my children when they're more grown up and can understand? Lily first.
Oh, sorry. Don't do it. Don't do it, because then you've created a lie. And children will grow up and they'll say, why did you lie to me? What else did you lie to me about? And telling children from a very young age, like Chase and I, our mother told us in the form of a story. And just like Karen was saying, as a child, we asked very typical questions. Where did I come out from? Did I come out of your tummy or somebody else's tummy? You know, how is the process of birth? And right off the bat, you know, my mom took the opportunity, I'd like to point her out in the crowd right there,
Yeah.
and to tell us, you know, right from the bat, and I appreciated that because it made me feel like she went the extra mile to have me. You know, she didn't just, I mean, adoption is great, and I don't want to, you know, put any negative connotation on it, but the fact that she went out and out of her way to have a child in this manner, I thought she was very brave because she did that. And she was a pioneer in this field, actually. We're older, so I mean, we've been around for a while, and she telling us that we are important and that we are loved and that we are no different was really, really important.
And Chase, do you think we should tell them when they're
Yeah,
young, or does it
definitely
not
tell
matter?
Really important.
And Chase, do you think we should tell them when they're
Yeah,
young, or does it
definitely
not
tell
matter?
when you're young, like they were saying, because otherwise you feel like your life's a lie. You know, if you just find out something like, especially a big event like that, you'd be kind of thrown off. Your life would be different. You would, you know, wait, why didn't you tell me when I was younger? It makes you feel like, I mean, it would make me feel like I was, you know, different in a negative way. Yeah, I mean, definitely tell them when they're younger. Explain it.
Need
as
to
early
let
as
children
possible.
know that they're wanted is the biggest criteria.
And are there any questions in the audience? Otherwise, I can keep on asking them questions. But does anyone here have a question in particular they would like to ask? Okay, then I will ask you the common questions, since we have time. Have you met your surrogate mom? Both of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And how would you feel if you could never meet her? Do you think it would have really made a difference to you?
I wouldn't say. I mean, it would definitely have made a difference. Meeting my surrogate mom it's nice. I mean, we have dinner with her once or twice a year. She's a cool person. Not my mom. You know, I think my mom's the coolest person in the world. So, yeah, if I didn't meet her, I think it'd be weird. I have a wondering, like, oh, maybe I'm like her, because, you know, sometimes, you know, you and your parents butt heads, so you're like, oh, I'm different. You know, I'm not from her. I must be like my surrogate mom. And then you finally meet your surrogate mom, and you're like, okay, maybe the nature versus nurture thing's pretty big. It's who raises you, who you're like. It's not only genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't have a really big yearning to meet my surrogate mother. I think the fact that I was told from the very, very beginning, just kind of like all those questions kind of went out the window, because it wasn't like I learned later on, and I was like, ooh, who is she? I wasn't as interested, but I have met her, and I couldn't agree more with Chase. You know, we're not alike, and I think it's just because, you know, we may look similar, but I think because I grew up in a different household, I'm much more like, you know, my mother who raised me.
And what about your friends and colleagues? Do you tend to tell them you're from surrogacy, or doesn't really come up in conversation? And those that do know, how have they commented?
So it's not one of those usual conversation things where they're like, so how were you born? But I mean, I'm proud. I'm proud of who I am, and surrogacy has given me confidence in who I am and being proud of who I am. So I mean, when it does come up, I'm not afraid to share it. When I was younger and by unfortunate circumstances, children found out that I was born through surrogacy, it was more or less a questioning, lots of questions. There were certain children that I was bullied from, and that's why this film really spoke to me, because I never want that to happen again for any child. And it usually came from a religious standpoint. Not really sure why that particular population decides to go that route, but that's what I've found mostly. And I've actually, the most negative comment I've received is actually from my ex-boyfriend's mother. She told me, oh, you should never have been born. You should never have been born. It's unnatural. You never should have been born, and that is a terrible thing to hear for anybody. And so those are some of the negative things that I've heard.
Yeah, like she says, it doesn't really come up that often, but when it does, usually, most people think it's cool, like, oh, how's it work? You know, they haven't really heard of it. But the people who think it's like a negative thing, usually those are pretty closed-minded people who I don't really care about in general. They're usually just people who start picking, trying to get you to have a reaction. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a person, you know, I'm not like half robot or something, some crazy thing of science. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really come up that much. I'm not, you know, today I get to sit in front of you and talk because I'm a surrogate, but other than that, that's really the only perks of it. I don't get to go around getting anything from being a surrogate. I just get to talk to you guys. Other than that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no questions, I just want to say thank you to Lillian Chase for being here. Thank you very much.